Now we're going to construct what is called the vessel's bulwarks. That is a portion of the hull that rises up like a wall from the deck. Our boat has to fit this wall along that curve of the stern, but there's a way to do that, and I'm going to show it to you. First of all, we have to make a conical shape of our tagboard paper that we use to construct everything else. Now, use the blank side of either one of these time cards or one of your manila envelopes. Line it up so that both ends are pretty much equal to one another on each side along the hull. And you're fitting right along the shape of the stern. Now, we simply slide it down a little bit and then re-snug it up against the hull. This is going to take some finagling. You notice I'm wrestling with it here. It takes a while to get it exactly where you like it. And here we have it right up snug against the stern. Now, get a pencil and just softly trace right around the edge of your stern. Just like that. Now you should have a curve and a couple of edges. Slide the paper upward until you have, between the first line and where you're going to draw the second line, enough space to show the thickness of your bulwarks. And here you see it right here. That's about where I want it. I need a little left over because I'm going to have to sand it away. Draw another line. And you get this. Now we're going to cut that out. Okay, we start by cutting only the curve. We use the upper curve first. And here you can see it cut away. Now we take the two ends of that curve, if I can keep myself in focus here, and run a straight edge down. If you cut along those lines, you have an extra piece. We're going to use that extra piece as a template. Let's bring it down to where we drew the second line, match it up to the curve, and see how straight it is. If it does what we want it to, we'll run a pencil along that, and then it gives us a good idea of what we're going to have when we cut two pieces out. Next, compare and contrast to make sure that you have a nice even thickness along this piece. You can see I got here nice and thick. That's the fat end, and I want to go down to the fat end on this end, and you can see where the one side didn't match very well. But now we've got it matched up. Once again, take your straight edge and draw it right up to the curve. And then, once you get that, cut the curve and then cut the straight ends. Then throw away whatever's left. Once it's glued to the hull, it's going to look something like this. You notice I cut a scallop on each end. So we have that nice little scallop taken out there. See how it fits? But our problem is this lip right here. Okay, when we paint that, that's going to show like crazy. But there's a way to get rid of that. It's going to take a lot of sanding and a lot of patience, but you can get rid of this. What you do is you take some super glue and put a generous amount on there and let it soak into the paper. I call this hardening. That's what we're going to do, is we're going to harden this up. You notice here I'm using a whole bunch. Don't go shy on it. It's got to soak into that paper. Once you got a whole bunch on there, you can kind of rub it with your finger really fast. Don't stop. Your finger will stick. Also, when you're done doing that, be careful what you touch for about 10 or 15 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to end up glued to something or yourself. Do it all the way around. You may even want to put some on the bare wood underneath this piece. Now we're going to aggressively sand. And when we do, we come up with this. Amazing what you can do with an emery board. Sand it around until your touch shows that you really can hardly feel it on there. That way when you paint it, you won't be able to see it. Now we're going to do the bulwark for the bow. And you can see here that's not a very large piece. The problem is, where do we locate it? There's an interesting formula I came up for locating it. You see here where there's a blank spot, where there's no bulwark? I measured that. Now you can do that with 2 pieces of paper or 1 piece of paper, but I did it with my dividers. Now, you come in here, find that distance, and you're going to make a mark right there with your pencil. Don't be afraid about putting a mark in this balsa wood, because when you put the bulwark on, it's going to cover that up. Make one an equidistance on the other side. Now, we got to cut a piece that'll go around there. It doesn't have to be a huge piece, okay? It can be a small one. You notice the small area that this is going to take up. You can make it as small or as large as you want. I prefer to go much smaller than what most people would do. What I would recommend for the first-time builder is a size about this much extra. So your overall piece of paper is going to be that plus what's up there on the bow peak. You can use just a piece of scrap for this. It works quite well. Figure out what height you really want that to be, what you're comfortable with, and put on your straight edge, mark it, and then get out your X-Acto knife and cut it. Now, the distance doesn't have to be a whole lot. It doesn't have to be this whole thing. So I just guesstimated a distance, and then I went and made my cut. And you can see here's the cut. I'll try to keep myself in focus. And away we go. That's the piece we're going to use to make our bow bulwark. It's not big, but I can handle it quite well. Now, to start it, remember it's bigger than what we want. So what you want to do first is go up to your first mark. We'll zoom out here a little ways so you can see it a little better. Get up to your first mark, hold it tightly there, wrap it around on the peak. When you hit the peak, push it over real hard so you can make a nice fold right there. A nice, even, sharp fold. Don't worry about the length of the other side. We're going to take care of that in just a minute. But that's what you're going to use. Fold it over neatly, make sure everything matches. Get a nice square fold on it. There you go. And now we're going to cut away the extra because we don't need that part. So just use the one side as your template there, as your guide. Cut it, and it's gone. There you go. And all you have to do is trim down the angle and put a little scallop on it. Here's mine as finished product. And you can see I've got a small scallop on it. It's not a very big piece, but it's going to fit on there quite well. I want to start where my mark is, put it around the bow, test fit it, and then I want to glue it in place. Once I do that, I'm going to harden it exactly the way we did with the stern section, and then shave the excess away. Now, if you're going to be using your fingers and super glue, I want to tell you right now, you better have either some raw acetone available or some nail polish remover. Because when you're doing this hardening process, you're quite likely to end up with your fingers glued to something, either you or the boat or the super glue container or something else. So it's always good to have this acetone away. If you do get stuck to something, do not try to pull it apart, especially pull the skin off of your fingers. That's not good. Just gently use the acetone and it will dissolve the super glue away and you can safely get your fingers clear. Next, we're going to be making the deck houses, and that's going to require some more paper cutting and some more hardening. And I'm going to show you some methods for making portholes. So there we go. I'll see you next time.